ready? Okay, come on, yeah. We out of control. It's out of control.
You can buy these, actually, not in this exact shape, but there's a plate that I'm going to use to connect the fluids from inside to outside, so heater and I guess sometimes the gas, but sometimes the fluid, the AC stuff. So that hole right there is the stock Lexus hole for the AC. I'm going to be able to stuff all of these through. So 2 1/2 inch. I know these look super close, but I'm going to be able to angle them a little bit to make that work. And then I have room over here to do the AC part of it. Some people use bulkhead fittings. I'm just doing what I did on my 510, which is you get this grommet. The size of the hole is not nearly this big. It's actually just this big. So I have these little hole saws that I use. I'll cut that out of here, and everything will be able to be routed through there. Right down in there. Here. Heater. AC. So I'm going to have to get in there and put the grommets in the holes. Then the hoses just go right through that. I think the last thing I have to do before just locking down this whole radiator section, which means putting the hoses on, stock Firebird hoses, and transmission and everything else, is right down in here. I'm sure you can see that, but that's the number 6 fitting for the AC hose. So that goes to a dryer, AC dryer, and then after the AC dryer, it goes to one of these holes. So I'm gonna undo the radiator, pull it back, tip it forward, whatever, and then I'll have access to that fitting. And I can. So this is again Mastercool. I'll put the link in the description. But I got it off Amazon. A lot of people have gotten them off Amazon. So they have these, and they go there. This is the part number for the Mastercool, part 71550. So for this is a Mastercool off of Amazon. Had really good luck with it, with the exception of the fact that there's a line right here, and that line is what they tell you to crimp this down to. I can tell you from personal experience that that is not going to automatically make for a good seal. It might even pass the vacuum test, which we'll show later. It will not pass once things have gotten into or been pressurized. So I think somebody on YouTube actually talks about a foot-pounds of torque. This is a 19 millimeter. It's what you use to crimp the thing down. I think Mastercool says don't use an impact. I do use an impact. I just use this Ryobi, so it's not the most powerful thing in the world, but it makes it a little bit quicker, and I have had no bad luck with doing that. The only bad luck I've ever had with this is going just to that mark and not crimping the hell out of this thing. So you can do whatever you choose to, but I'll tell you, once you get the system all the way together and things start leaking and you have to evacuate it, buy more R134 and the whole 9 yards, you'll wish you had crimped it better. So what you do here with these hoses, there's a little hole right here, and that actually lets you see how far in this is, and it needs to go all the way in. So you just put it in here. That part's relatively easy, and you can see right there, hopefully, that hose is all the way in there. So now when you go to put it in the crimper, when you get it in the crimper, You can see how much is coming out that side and coming out this side. And what you want is for that to be about in the middle, or in the middle. And once you put a little pressure, you can double check and see where you are as far as the right amount. I think that's good. And that's what that looks like, and that looks good to me. I mean, you kind of get an eye for it, which I know is an annoying explanation because you should just be able to do it to that mark. You will be able to tell on some fittings, I don't know what the story is, but you will not end up having nearly this nice, like if you just went to that mark and checked it, they won't be this nice, they won't be this deep. I have good confidence in this one though. One thing about AC hoses, they're not especially flexible. I mean, you may say, oh yeah, this looks really flexible. What I mean by that, I guess, is once you get the fittings on there, you need to mark, I'll show you, but you need to mark exactly the orientation because this hose is not going to want to go back and forth like that. So once we get this marked off in place, we'll mark it on the fitting, and then that's how we'll make it when we put it in the machine. So we have this hose oriented correctly. We have our dryer where we're going to have our dryer. Now you have to take this hose, run a little cleaner inside this, and make sure all your components are where they need to be. And then if you have a little extra line out the end of the world, but going short would not be good. In this instance, it's not crazy. If it weren't to be perfect, because I could always move the dryer, but so we'll cut that first, and then I'll show you the other part. So you see how that's oriented down there, and follow it up. So what you want to do is get, so this hose again, it's not going to be able to twist that way, but a very small amount. So you get this hose where you want, and now we're going to mark it on the fitting and the hose. And those need to line up when you're crimping it. This is going to be the second hose, or this will be our first hose, but it'll be completed once we're finished with this. I'm actually going to get an O-ring, and I'm gonna tighten that one down so that I can get everything together, and that's going to be it for radiator and all that to be in its final position. So you can see where my mark is, and now we'll just clamp it down again. And there you go, another AC. So you can see how this is pointing one way and this is another way. I know I've said this, I'll say it again. You need to make sure those are oriented correctly because they're not going to twist much. So this kit comes with O-rings. I'll put the link in the description. There's O-rings for the 8s, the 10s, and the 6s. 6s are little guys. So I'll go get some oil, but you'll want to put some AC oil on these before you tighten everything down. I have it in the correct orientation, which is basically I'm just coming up past this. It's not going to get in the way of anything else. One thing with these A fittings, I mean AC fittings, you do want them snug, but they have an O-ring, and you don't need to go nuts with it. So you can feel it tighten. These go snug. I will put this one on here just temporarily an in and an out on your dryer. Make sure you go in from the condenser. So that's how that fitting goes in, but usually there's an O-ring. So that's going to go like that. So the way I'm doing this, as I showed earlier, there's my plate on there now. I will only have one other hose for this. One other part of the number 6 system. And that's because I'm using those grommets. So the hose, once I get the grommets in there, will actually run from here. It's going to come up along this loom, go down underneath there into this one. Comes out right there. And then the number 6 on the vintage air is right here. So these are straight shot ones. When my 510 had a lot harder, it was a lot harder because I had major space constraints. This, there weren't a lot of special fittings needed. I mean, you saw what I needed over on that end. 290 degrees. There's another 90 degree I'll use. And then this is going to be a straight one, so I just need to get that in here and we should be good to go. So the exception to worrying about whether this hose is oriented correctly is if you have a straight fitting on one end, it does not matter. So this one is going to come out of there. It's going to go through the firewall in. Pretty much had the perfect amount of hose. This hose could be slightly shorter, but it'll be fine as is to leave it like this. Gives me a little extra room in case I ever need to move the evaporator core down or around or anything. Okay, so a little more of the same. This is the last of the AC lines, so this is the number 10. This will go from your compressor to your evaporator inside the car. So this guy, it's kind of a weird fit under there. I was able to make it work. I don't love the accessibility. It's really nice to have this port, some easy place that you can get to it, but in my setup right now, I really don't have that option without more fittings and other issues going on, so this is the way we're going to do it. Okay, so the dash is almost out. Things I'd highlight is going to be these covers here. Make sure you don't just try to flex them out of there. Undo this screw first for the grab handle. It'll slide back and you can get the other one off. Otherwise you'll break them like I did. I'll be able to fix it, but it was dumb. Otherwise, it's pretty much as what people say on the old interweb, which I'm going to link to. Some good step-by-step pictures. It's not the worst thing ever, to be honest. It's not great, but this harness is attached to the dash. It's got several clips on it. It bolts like here. It bolts over on the same type of thing on the other side. It bolts a couple different places. Looks like it's zip tied here. Bolts here. So you need to get those off. Otherwise, I don't know. It's kind of shitty work, but I've probably been out here doing it 3 hours maybe? I don't know. Certainly not good times, but as far as dash removals go, I think it's pretty straightforward. This is what an SC400 looks like with no dashboard in it. Column pretty much drops to the ground. I'm going to kind of figure out what I need and don't need, but bottom line is this monstrosity that is the air conditioning and cooling system are not going to be in here anymore. So, won't lie, pretty damn amazing system. Pretty clever how they put things in here, but I'm not going to be using it, so I think I might call it a day. I feel good I got this far. This really opens up a lot of things that I have been kind of putting off, so probably wrap this one up.
I'm ready. Ready? Okay, come on. Yeah. We out of control. It's out of control. We out of control. It's out of control.